Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome to Your Morning Drive. I am Logan. As always, thank you for tuning in today. We've got a great show for you today. I'm really excited to have my guest here. The guest that we have in studio today is a mental health professional dedicated to supporting children, adolescents, and families. With a master's from Emory University and expertise in trauma, CBT, and DBT, she specializes in ADHD, autism, anxiety, and mood disorders. Now pursuing a Master of Social Work, she's a fierce advocate for youth with exceptional needs. As a mother to two children in need, she understands the challenges families face and is committed to providing the tools and support needed for growth and resilience. Please welcome my new friend, Mandie Moore. This podcast is proudly sponsored by DKK Marketing and East Cobb City Lifestyle. Their mission is to create memorable moments, cultivate connections, build brands, and drive business development. Their team is dedicated to showcasing aspiring stories that highlight remarkable people, vibrant places, community events, and the impactful leadership in businesses shaping Cobb County, Metro Atlanta, and beyond. Hello, Mandie.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm so thankful that you are taking time out of your long day to be here with me. It's super cool and an honor.
Thanks for asking me.
Absolutely. So we were connected by our mutual friend, previous guest on this podcast, someone you work with, I guess, on a daily basis. I don't really know, Dr. Kimberly and Laurel. And that's awesome and I feel bad because that was like 6 months ago. And it got to the point where I was about to have you on and I was like, I am way overbooked and a little in over my head and I need to like take a break. I actually didn't record anything all of April because I was so far, like I had so many episodes pre-recorded that they weren't going to come out until like late June. Is that your phone?
Yes. Do I need to? I don't need to get it.
I don't think it's picking up.
Give me silence notifications.
Nah, it's all right. You're fine.
On. Everybody who knows me knows I'm here.
Well, spam caller.
Yeah.
Shout out to you if you're listening to this. Comment if you were the person calling and you were actually one of Mandie's friends. That'd be really funny. Tag us on your Instagram story or social media story or something. Just let us know you were listening. Anyway, this happens a lot also, by the way. Very ADHD brain here. So what was I saying?
You were saying we were connected by Dr. Kimberly.
Yes. And they said as soon, I told you a little bit off mic, but they said, oh my God, you've got to get Mandie. And like the level of hype. Even when we put the date on the calendar, I texted them both and I was like, guess who just got scheduled? And they were like, oh shit. And you can curse too, by the way. I don't know if I told you that yet. You can drop a couple bombs if you need to, but you can, So yeah, there you go.
That's good to know.
But yeah, this is Your Morning Drive. This is the place where I get to know cool people and hear their story. And that's why you're here, Mandie. I want to know your story. So kind of to start off, I mean, where are you from? Parents, siblings, upbringing, kind of generally, who are you? Where are you from?
So I am a local Georgia girl. Not many Atlanta native people left. I grew up in Beaufort. And then we moved out to like Claremont, Dahlonega area for my undergrad. I did it at University of North Georgia. Then I decided to move away for a bit. Went to LA for a few years, worked as a travel nurse out there. Came back to the city, lived downtown, went to grad school at Emory, and then moved up to New York for a bit too, and then came back down again.
New York and LA, was it the opportunities that brought you out there, or were you just like, I'm been in Georgia my whole life, I'm going to go to this end of the country and then that corner of the country?
So LA was definitely probably that. I mean, definite opportunities with travel nursing back then. You could go anywhere. And I think I woke up one day at the age of 25 and I was like, I've been here too long and I need to see a different part. So I picked the furthest place essentially, and went to LA and just had a completely different experience.
And what was that like?
It was great. I learned a lot about myself. I learned how to live alone and be on my own, which I think is something important that we don't really do a lot of now. So that was really critical for me. Had a lot of fun, did some good nursing, just got a lot of experience. And it was just beautiful, obviously, living out there. The weather was great. But then after a few years, missed home again, headed back.
Interesting, interesting. So you head back from LA, and for like, what is LA life like? As someone who has been there, done that, do you think it's overrated?
I do think it's overrated. And that's probably hopefully not going to offend anybody. I think you have this image of what it's going to be. And there was certainly part of that, but I think you have to be in that money aspect to live like the full
Yeah.
LA life. I was kind of more out in the suburbs of LA. Still fun. And it's great to be able to hop in your car and go to Vegas for the weekend or go to the beach, that kind of thing. But I think to do LA right, same as Manhattan, you need the money.
You're not having a great vacation in either of those places if you're like balling on a budget, like a
Yeah.
tight budget.
Yeah. You can't worry about that if you want to.
I've never been to either city. I mean, I went to New York once when I was in high school because we lived in, I think it was Virginia at the time, and my family, like my parents and siblings, my parents were like, why don't we go to New York? We've never done that. Because my parents were big, like, let's go to Disney World for every break, every vacation. Disney was the destination.
Okay.
So finally one year they were just like, you know what, for spring break this year, we're going to New York. And I wasn't an adult and my siblings were young. Like I was in I think I was a junior in high school and like I was still a kid really. And I just don't think I at the time really took it in and thought like, holy shit, this is New York City.
Yeah.
We're standing in Times Square right now. Like if I went today, I feel like I would have just almost an entirely different experience because I'd be able to participate in, like going to bars or, nightclubs if that was my thing. It's not, I'm in bed by 9 p.m. But yeah, I'm desperate to go back. I really want to.
Yeah, I think it's one of those places, kind of like Vegas, that you can go as a kid, but it's better appreciated as an adult for sure.
Yeah.
Just a lot. Yeah. So
do you dabble with Vegas?
I did when I lived in LA. I haven't been since I had kids. I don't know. My oldest is begging to go. He wants to go. He's a people watcher like me and has recognized that's a good city for that.
Oof.
Yeah. So my 13-year-old is heavy pushing on a Vegas vacation. I'm like, you're a little young.
You could do it. My grandparents lived in the Midwest for their whole lives, and then they retired and they moved to Las Vegas, and because they were tired of the cold, they were tired of the snow, they were tired of everything that Illinois, the great state of Illinois, has to offer. I always throw in the great state because it's a horrible state.
Oh,
there's not a lot of great stuff in Illinois. I mean, you got Chicago, the Cubs, you got
hot dogs.
That's it. Chicago and the Cubs. So the Chicago Cubs are the only good thing. And Abraham Lincoln was from Illinois, and you can go and see his home that he grew up in, and that's all cool and dandy and stuff. But yeah, Illinois doesn't have much to offer. In fact, I'm pretty sure they're like a slowly dying state. Yeah, it's not great.
I would not think that. I just given you hear about Chicago, but
there's a ton of farmland and just openness to Illinois. I mean, a lot of the Midwest, like Ohio, it's just cornfields as far as the eye can see. But I mean, you've got Chicago, which is this behemoth, but then the rest of Illinois is really nothing. I don't want to like shit on where my parents are from.
Anytime soon.
Well, no. I mean, since we'll
just cross that one.
Although my grandparents have now reached the age in the last 9 months or so where it's apparent that they need to be near their children.
I am so excited that we are entering year 2 of the support from the fireworks community team. I am so excited to have them hosting us today. They're a creative co-working space focused on supporting the local community and uplifting creative entrepreneurs. Get a free day pass. When you book with them, you have to use code DRIVE, or if you go to see them in person to visit their beautiful space and meet their awesome staff, tell them Logan from Your Morning Drive sent you, and you'll get a free day pass to try the space yourself. Fireworks Co-working in Marietta, Georgia.
So they are moving back to Illinois to be near the rest of my mom's siblings. Most of her older siblings still live kind of in some towns around where they used to grow up. And so they're moving them back to unassisted care. So
how do they feel about that move?
They were resistant to it for the longest time because, of course, they moved out there for a reason to get away from their kids and to live their own life and to
Yeah.
get away from the Midwest. But then at the same time, I think I just FaceTimed grandma the other day and she was just like, it's right. It's right
Okay.
that we go
Okay.
because they've encountered some health issues where it's like they might forget to take their medicine or,
Sorry.
it's okay.
Yeah.
That's quite all right. It happens. It's one of those things that you're like, oh, it's not going to happen to us.
Yeah.
It happens to you.
What?
And you're
Yeah.
just like, damn, wasn't ready for that.
Yeah.
Especially when your grandma is your best friend. Shut up.
Aw, very sweet.
Shut up, Mima. I love my
Very
Mima.
sweet.
Love my Mima. One day when she goes, that's going to be a bad month. That's going to be a tough one. But enough about death. But yeah, so
What I'm here to talk about?
yeah, again, here, podcast brain. Here we're talking about my grandma, and this is your episode. So you moved to LA, you moved back to Georgia, and then what pushed you to go up to New York?
So a guy, because then always
It's always a
somebody
boy.
I love. I was at Emory finishing on my grad degree, and I met my now husband, and he's from New York, and he was just down here temporarily. So as soon as he could get the hell out of here and back up to New York, we went.
Really?
Yes, yeah. Which is funny because he loves it here now, and we're back here now. But yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's fun.
yeah.
So met in New York when you went. Oh no,
Met
I'm sorry.
here,
You met
yeah.
here. You followed him
I
there,
did.
and then you moved back here.
Mhm.
And is he just chomping at the bit to go back?
No, we've been here now. Gosh, we've been married 17 years, so I guess we've been back here for 15 years. And
Wow.
no, he listens to country music and cares a lot about grass and all these things.
There's no
that-
grass in the state of New York.
No, there's not. And so he went from being this, living in the Bronx, living in Manhattan kind of guy to embracing the suburban life down here.
What does he do for work?
He is a banker for HSBC, so he's into finance. We're very opposite
Yeah.
in that way. Yeah.
Does he enjoy the banking world?
He does, yes. I don't know how and why. It's super stressful and I find it boring, but it rocks his world and he loves it. So.
As a man who used to work at a local credit union for a few years, boring is the right word. But you meet so many people doing that,
Yeah.
and you make so many cool connections with people that you would take with you even if you don't work at the bank anymore. Like
Yeah.
it's a really cool industry in that sense because it's so personal. At the same time, I mean, yeah, it's if you're not obsessed with numbers, if numbers don't tickle your fancy, then
Yeah.
you're pretty bored.
Yeah. He's a relationship manager, so he does a lot of, dealing with people, which is a big thing for him. But yeah, I mean, I was actually talking about this with somebody earlier today. A spreadsheet, you give him an Excel and you've made his day.
I will say there's a simple something about an Excel spreadsheet that makes me happy too. I open it up, someone's like, make me an Excel spreadsheet for this. I'm like, on it.
Oh, you guys would be best
love-
friends. Our whole life
Love
is
a
spreadsheet.
spreadsheet. Same thing with my wife. She's just like, I'll let you keep track of all that.
Yeah.
To the point where the other day she was like, you know what? If you got hit by a bus, I don't know if I would know what to do.
Just fine. You need to label the spreadsheets so we know which ones to
real.
open. Yeah.
I was like, and I told my dad that. He was like, yeah, you need to make your mom like a to-do list. I was like, that feels kind of, or your wife a to-do list. And I was like, that feels kind of micromanagey. He was like, well, if you're someone like me who manages all the finances, all of this, that, and the other, if something happened to you, she needs to know where to pick up where you left off. And it's just a necessary part of
It
life.
is. It's a conversation that people don't have that is, needed and you realize it after it's too late. Yeah. So yeah. But for us, it's like, I'm ready to go Christmas shopping. He's like, let's make a spreadsheet. There goes the fun out of that.
Yeah.
So
You're like, what happened to a simple list on your phone?
Yeah.
Why does it have
we're
to be a
just
spreadsheet?
shopping and then seeing something, but
Yeah.
it's got to be written down in a spreadsheet.
Oh man.
Or it's an extravagant purchase.
I would like this guy.
I think you would.
Enjoy this man's company. Yeah, that's fun. Okay, so you get back to Georgia. What's your immediate move? And sorry, when we go back to New York, what did you do when you were in New York?
So I was
Were you still travel nursing?
I wasn't traveling. I was doing nursing. I was working as a registered nurse at a few of the hospitals, Lenox Hill. I taught at NYU for a little bit, taught nursing. So doing the nursing thing, it was great. We didn't have any kids. We were newly married. So, it was like the life. We lived in town in Manhattan, never cooked. You could get anything, like any food you wanted anytime. So I have a kitchen.
Right.
So we just kind of worked a lot and then had fun. Otherwise.
Wow. When you went to college, you went to college, right?
Yes, a few
Okay,
times.
cool.
I actually just finished college again.
Yeah.
I can't get enough of college.
Sweet. College has made their money off of you.
They sure have. Yeah.
So you did, in your intro, this is my horrible ADHD.
That's it.
You're probably thinking like, you just said that 10 minutes ago, you idiot.
No.
I'm just kidding.
No.
We'll get to this later. This doesn't have to turn into a therapy session, but you can probably tell like this dude makes a lot of self-deprecation jokes and I'm working on it. Okay.
Good. Good.
But it's too fun. I make the jokes so nobody else has to.
I think it's better we poke fun at ourselves.
I agree.
I mean, why take?
To a level.
Yeah. I mean,
To a point where it's unhealthy.
if you're hurting your self-esteem,
Yeah.
like if you can't look in the mirror and you're like
Right.
trying to make a joke.
It'd be
But it's-
different if you're that guy that's just like, I'm an idiot. Like,
yeah.
what an idiot.
Yeah.
People around you are just like, okay.
Yeah.
No, but I
Awkward
poke fun
silence.
at myself a lot. But so did you go for nursing?
I did. So I did my undergrad a long time ago, 20 years ago in nursing. And then I went back for my master's to become a nurse practitioner and then just finished my social work, master's in social work.
Amazing. Amazing. So that thing that I read off 6 months ago, when I initially got, so that is now,
It is now done.
you know what sucks
Stamped.
is I read through it last night and I thought maybe I should check with her to make sure this is all accurate still. So if anything's changed, I apologize.
No, it's good. It's a great, it's just a recent accomplishment. So it's good.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
Thanks.
awesome. Are you done with school?
Done.
Done.
Well, done with this. Yeah.
Oh, she's going back.
Oh,
y'all.
maybe.
She's
We'll
got
see.
a plan.
We'll see.
You do give me the vibe that you've got a plan. Like
Yeah, I kind of do.
you do.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. We love that. We love a planner, but you don't plan with spreadsheets.
I don't. No. Ugh.
Do you write things down?
I do.
Okay. Do you journal and stuff?
No, I'm
Maybe
not.
journal, but like you keep a thing.
I'm a
that you-
list maker.
Okay.
And I have a scary amount of Post-its, kind of like that creepy, like if you walked into my room, you'd be like, that's interesting because there's
Yeah.
Post-its everywhere. But I am a list maker. But
Okay.
for me, I'm not a digital person. I have to, like, same with books, got to hold them, got to cross things off, that kind of thing. So
There is something special about with books in general, with having a physical book.
Mhm.
It just is like different because my wife does the Kindle thing and she loves that thing, and I just got her this dumb thing so that she doesn't even have to hold the Kindle. She just
Oh.
clicks a button and it moves to the next page.
wow.
And when I gave it to her, she like almost cried. She was like, "This changes my life."
I mean, Kindle people are serious
Oh,
about
they're-
the Kindles.
Yeah.
And my mom keeps trying to convert me. Like everybody keeps buying me things to put books on. But I could do an Audible, but if I'm reading, it needs to be a hard copy.
I'm with you because it also like having the hard copy, because if I whip my phone out and want to read a book on my phone or on a Kindle, that's just either another thing I have to carry with me
Mhm.
or, like we've covered once or twice on here, my brain is all over the place. So if I open my phone with the intention of opening a book, and you see this thing, well, it takes me to Instagram or it takes me to my email or, something. So I forget that I was even supposed to read a book.
Yeah. Yeah.
In
That
general.
doom scrolling on
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
But having a physical book, and I just like the idea of like having like, when I'm like old and gray and I have a nice home office with shelves, I have all these books that
Yeah.
I've read.
Yeah.
And I just like that thought rather than just having a digital library of hundreds of books. Like that's cool and all, but like
Show that.
you can't really have
off,
to
though.
show.
Yeah, like
Someone walks into your place, you're like, damn, you read all
I
those
can't-
books? Actually, I have.
Yeah, I am this smart, and
Yeah.
you have proof of it right
Yeah.
here. Versus, yeah.
Versus your dumb little Kindle.
Where you can't prove anything.
Catherine will listen to this and she'll be like, don't you crap on my Kindle.
No. Everybody loves their Kindle. I haven't got on that train, but I think I'm of the few.
Are you an avid reader?
I used to be. School's taken up some of that time.
Sure.
And then my kids have a great way of getting in the way of reading.
Don't they?
Yeah, they're just really good at that. But before, yes, I was a big reader.
What would you read? Would you read like, I call them, because this is also where my wife differs. She likes to read these like which is so weird because she doesn't like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, anything weird, mystical like that.
Yeah.
But she reads these like fantasy kind of more towards girls, more
Yeah.
towards women. You know what I'm saying?
I do know that. Yeah.
She likes reading that stuff.
It's,
And
you can say trash.
what were you gonna say?
I was going to say I like to read the trash. Like it just kind of melts your brain. Like it's just
What word are you using for it?
trash. Like
Trash,
it's
okay.
not, it's just kind of, but it's
Yeah.
good trash. It's
Yeah.
like mindless. It's easy. Takes you away.
Yeah, it's like Five Guys. You don't need to have it,
Yeah.
but once you do, you're like, this
Yeah.
is great.
It was good. It hit the soul. It was good. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. The
Yeah.
right amount of salt. But I
good.
only can read books about things that are true. Some weird because I am a big movie guy, a big TV guy, and I love fantasy stuff. But when I'm reading, almost in a weird way, I want to be hearing the person's story that's writing this book. So all of my books that I've read are like autobiographies or biographies written about another person, or some kind of self-help kind of book.
Yeah.
And I just can't. I tried to listen to some real famous book that everybody knows. I forget what it is at this point, but I tried to listen to it and I was like, I just can't listen to this.
Yeah.
I've got to be listening to or reading something quote unquote real.
Yeah. I will say I've gotten more into human interest and stuff as now. If I do sit down to read, it is less about, it's more human interest stories or self-help or whatever it is. I think, I don't know. It just depends what the mood is. Sometimes you just need to, same with our TV choices. Sometimes I just need to melt and watch ridiculousness that is super entertaining. And then other times there's, value definitely in reading people's stories and their words and balance it. Maybe.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
I act like I'm a big reader. I don't have any time to read, but when I did.
But now you do.
Yes.
Until you go back for the next degree or whatever you're doing next.
Yeah, that's probably going to be it. So,
oh my God. You totally are going back.
Yeah, I might have been on the phone with a few admissions departments today.
Oh
maybe.
my God, dude.
Maybe. We'll see.
I'm going to flip the script on you and kind of like, why? Your Morning Drive is also present to us by Good Days Canned Cocktails. Good Days are a classic cocktail brand created in a convenient, ready-to-drink canned format for any occasion, whether it's a pool day, a boat day, a beach day, a graduation, a wedding, a bar mitzvah, anything in between. Good Days are there for you. Good Days are ahead when they are in your cooler, your fridge, your anything in between. Good Days has your back. If you want to be one of the first to try their drink, you can do so by visiting drinkgooddays.com/pages/find-us to find a store near you selling their drink. Of course, you must be 21 years of age to consume and purchase.
So kind of as you mentioned, I have a big passion for kiddos who have neurodivergence, just kids' mental health in general. And so that's a lot of what I see, kids and teenagers. And I would like to be able to kind of help their families get diagnosis faster, work with them in that way. So if I go back, looking at either psychologists so I can, work with the kids, test the kids instead of sending them out, kind of keep them close where I know their families, get them kind of all the things that they need, or just kind of have a better understanding of developmental psychology and what makes us who we are from stage to stage, adults, kids, teenagers, all of it, adolescents. I don't know, just want to understand better.
I respect that. I understand. I toy with the idea of going back myself and getting a master's or something, but in this world, getting another degree won't do me anything. And even in the full-time job I've got, because I still do a full-time job as well. Oh, yeah.
I mean, this seems like a full-time job.
It can be. I certainly want it to be.
It's a cool job.
It'd be a great job to have. But yeah, juggling this and the full-time job and then a kind of a marketing company too. So I'm doing...
Your hands are full.
They could be more full.
Is that true?
Depends on who you ask.
Okay.
If you ask me, I'm a yes man.
Yeah.
If someone's just like, hey, I've got an idea, I'm like, I'm in. I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
But then some people would be like, dude, why don't you just, like my father would say, why don't you just focus on one thing?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, I understand that. But if I do one thing, then I'm limited down to one thing.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do just one thing.
I agree. I'm that way-ish on things. Yeah.
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 I want to try all of it.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, if I try and I fail, then at least I tried.
Yep.
Like the book thing, like I want to write a book and I'm trying to start to write one, but
that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's self-deprecation. Here we go.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
It's, I just, I'm not far in it or anything, but I would love to absolutely finish and publish something. And yeah, that's the next goal.
I mean, what an achievement. That would be huge.
That would be great. That would be really cool because I listened to the whole thing is going to be me telling my story in full, like from childhood to adulthood, as far as I've gotten so far. Because, I spent all this time hearing other people's stories, and I think the title is going to be like, and here's mine, or something like
I
this.
like that.
Something like that.
Nice. Clever.
So we'll see. We'll see. But okay, so you get back to Georgia. This is what happens.
That's great.
This is why we can be in here for a long time.
Yeah, that's
So, and you've got the Celsius, so it helps.
it does.
You get back to Georgia. What's the immediate first move?
When we come back, yes. So when he comes with me back for permanent,
Yep.
think about having a family. That's kind of why we moved back. I love all of New York. I have in-laws in Long Island, but for me, if I was going to live there, I needed to stay in the city. And again, we come into a cash flow thing to raise a family in the city. It would be hard. It would be.
Sounds stressful.
I don't know. I kind of thrived off of that environment.
Really?
Yeah, I like to be busy. I like a lot of people. When we first moved there, I was terrified. I remember we were painting our apartment and I had to walk to the hardware store and I had to stay on the phone with him the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't know how to do a block or an avenue when I first moved there. After a while, it became wonderful and I love it. And so I thrived there. I really liked it. But to have kids and afford an apartment big enough to have people other than yourselves live in it was just going to be a stretch. So we moved down here with the idea of it's a good place to start a family and raise a family.
So was it only ever going to be Georgia, or did you guys toy with going anywhere else?
It would have only ever been Georgia. Yeah, I think his family's New York, mine's Georgia, would have been one of the two.
Yeah, it makes sense to be close to family if you can. Yeah. Okay, so you moved down here with the intention of getting away from the city and starting a family. And it worked because you have 2 children.
I do. It did. Yes.
And I didn't say it in the intro because there was a word in the intro that I was afraid I was going to mispronounce. But you kids, you mentioned are, oh my God, it's gone. Neurodivergent. Yeah, I was afraid I was going to mispronounce that.
Yeah.
So to people who don't know what that means, what does that mean?
So neurodivergent can mean a lot of things. It can mean somebody who has ADHD. It can mean somebody who's on the autism spectrum, which are my kiddos. It can mean somebody with dyslexia. So it's just kind of a brain that works in a special, unique way, processes information different, and makes for really cool individuals. But they can face challenges, and not everybody can see the world like they do or get the world that they do. So that's kind of why it's become important for me to, make sure that everybody fits in. We're inclusive. And
Sure.
Yeah. So they have that. They were diagnosed with autism very young, both of them. And it turns out it was part of actually a larger syndrome. My kids have a fair bit of medical complexity to them. But it's part of it. It's a big part of it. And so, over the years, recognizing that it was really hard to find people from schools to therapists to just individuals who could be open-minded and could really appreciate for my kids for who they were, and friends, and just these little people with these different amazing brains. So
this is going to sound like a really stupid question, but I don't know really anything in this world. So I know with some diseases, disorders, whatever, sometimes you can tell these things like during the pregnancy. Are these things, I'm sure there's millions of different possibilities, but for your case, is it something that they could pick up on leading into you giving birth, or is it something that you notice in their behavior when they're young?
So for neurodivergence, it's going to be like a developmental disability.
Okay.
So they don't meet a milestone,
Okay.
or the milestone looks different or comes at a later time. And then with their larger syndrome, their Rohat syndrome, they were pretty, I hate the word normal, I hate the word typical, but healthy kids
Sure.
until like 8 and 10. So other than having the autism piece of it. So no, we had some scares when I was pregnant. We were told that they had Down syndrome. We were told they have cleft palate. Now looking, did they notice stuff from this other condition that they have? Maybe that was it. And
Sure.
there's just not a lot known on it. But no, there's not a lot of warning there's none for neurodivergence. If you have it run in your family pretty strongly, you might just be on a little bit higher level suspicion that your kiddo could show some of those traits. But for us, I was super ignorant and in denial. And I remember my oldest was 3 and they called me to a school, as they did very often when he was that age. And they forced the county papers in my hand. They're like, you need to get this kid tested. And I didn't know much about autism or neurodivergence of any kind. And all I knew was kind of that stereotypical what do you mean? He's verbal and he is social.
Yeah, he's
so
doing
he
all the things
can't
he's
have
supposed to
autism.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I didn't get him tested like an idiot for about a year and a half until it was like, get him tested or he can't come back in the school building kind of thing. But it just showed like, you don't know until you learn. And so for us, we were like, what? So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and I'm sure we'll tap into this in a little bit, but actually let me rewind before I ask that. So you guys get back here, you start the family all while you're in the process of starting your family. What are you doing?
I was working as a nurse practitioner at Emory.
Still nursing.
Yeah, still nursing at Emory. I had to take time off here and there as all these things started kind of presenting. But yeah, still nursing for majority of it. And then, yeah.
Okay, so maybe my assumption is correct, and you can correct me, of course, if I'm wrong, but did you experience this stuff with your young family at the time? And did that push you into where you are now as a field, or had you possibly kind of been already heading to the path of which you're on right now before your children were ever in the picture?
That's a really good question. I don't think I was. I think obviously it was probably mostly the kiddos, I think. But even in the beginning, I don't think, just the diagnosis of autism and living in that autism world, I definitely became an advocate for my kids and I tried to learn as much as I could and advocate for other families and things like that. But it really, this kind of a push where I wanted to give more support. Because as a nurse practitioner, you can see families and you can see kiddos, but you have like 15, 20 minutes, right? And then the next one's got to come in and it's different. It's just more fast paced. You don't have as much time. And so definitely was starting to transition over to working in special needs schools and things like that. But my kids happen to get very sick. They have a rare condition. Only 250 kids in the world have it. My boys are the only siblings documented. I know for sure here in the US. I think there's only one other sibling pair in the world, and they got very, very sick very fast.
Can I ask, if you don't want to tell, what is it called?
So it's called ROHAD syndrome. It's basically a bunch of acronyms. It stands for rapid onset obesity, hypothalamic dysfunction, hypoventilation, and autonomic dysfunction. So it's just the initials of that. Yeah. So we had the autism, and then it was right around COVID. And my son started having difficulty walking and difficulty breathing, and it was a lot that went into it. And he got very sick very fast and nobody could find any answers. We couldn't figure out why. So we kind of traveled to a bunch of hospitals, saw a lot of specialists here, and then got into the NIH. Like it was very like, what is going on? Because he was getting very sick. What the hell's happening? Yeah, he was getting very sick very fast.
And he was how old at this point?
He was kind of, I would guess 8 when we first started seeing, but it took 2 years to get a diagnosis.
Well, I guess if there's only 250 kids in the entire planet that have this, it would take a minute.
Yeah, it took.
There's not necessarily a page in the manual on this.
Well, and that's funny. That's exactly after he was diagnosed and we realized kind of how severe it was. I remember the palliative care social worker, who is the reason that I decided to fully change. She was super just instrumental in me being able to be the mom I needed to be for the boys. She said to me, this isn't like any other illness, not that anything's better, but like, with oncology and things like that in kids, there's a little bit more idea of structure for treatment. She was like, there is no guidebook or roadmap for this. You don't know the answers.
Really
to
just
anything.
kind of flying blind.
Really, very much so. And I think my boys have been definitely, a first case of a lot of things. So, yeah.
And forgive me if this is a dumb question too, but is there any, of course, with 250 kids, there's probably a lot we don't know, but is there any linkage? I don't know if linkage is a word, but is there any connection between these neurodivergent qualities and this rare disease?
Yeah. So come to find out that a lot of the kids with ROHAD syndrome have autistic-like tendencies. And so when my boys were diagnosed with autism, there was a lot of, it's spectrum, but they just are a little bit different. And so a lot of people would say, they got the diagnosis and all the psychologists agreed and neuropsychologists, and then but there was always like this but there's something else there. Yeah. And so once we got diagnosed with this, it made sense, because there's a belief that a lot of what we see is a lack of oxygen. So, my boys who were once, kind of really healthy kids are now trached. They have tracheostomy tubes and feeding tubes, and they have to sleep on ventilators at night, not during the day, but during the night. And a lot of what we saw cognitively and behaviorally could be linked to lack of oxygen, that we had no idea that this was going on and that they were suffering from anything, because we didn't know until they popped up one day as, being sick. So
wow, what a weird, again, like you said, you hated saying the word normal earlier, and I get that from this whole perspective. When you get that diagnosis, when they're really, really young, and you're like, okay, we'll work with this, we'll do the best we can for them, as any parent would. And then, 5 so years later, boom, then you get this diagnosis. And are you just like, is there any point of view that's like, why us? Like, why our kids?
Oh,
like,
for sure.
First you do this to them, and then now they have this, like, what the hell? And for both of them
that was the hardest.
So to make this clear for everyone, including myself, they both have qualities, and they both have this rare condition.
Yes.
That's bullshit.
It was a lot of why us?
Yeah.
What the hell? What did we do wrong? There's a lot of, and we just kind of, I think in your way to cope is like, what did we do? Like, and like, there's a lot of
you're almost like turning inward, and you're like, what did we do?
Yeah. There was a lot of, so like I don't know the exact statistic, but it's like 1 in 5 million. It's like extreme odds. And then for both of them, and everybody's like, oh, you should buy lottery tickets. I'm like, this is a really sucky lottery.
Yeah,
like,
it's not the lottery I want.
This isn't the kind of luck I need.
Helps with travel and medication. And we're not living lavish.
Yeah.
We're not moving back to Manhattan.
Yeah. No, this isn't.
It's gonna get.
Yeah.
I can't imagine going through all that stuff living in Manhattan.
Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, it's funny, like most people with Broad syndrome have to travel. I mean, when we got diagnosed, it was at a rare disease program. We had traveled to Wisconsin. We came back to Atlanta. We were getting ready to go to Boston. And my son it was only my oldest at the time, and he was 10 at this point, because it took us 2 years to find an answer. So we went to Wisconsin, we got a diagnosis, and we come back to Atlanta. And we're seeing an oncologist at CHOA. And I'm in her office, and I'm like, I don't think I can make it to Boston with my son, Max. I was like, I don't think, he was just really sick. I was like, I don't. And she was like, I think we have a pulmonologist here, a lung doctor, who has taken care of one kid with ROHAD. She called his phone, and we were in his office the next day. And now we've built an entire team here in Atlanta at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta.
Amazing.
To care for the boys. But we are one of the very few families. I think most of the families I know have to travel for care. We don't have to. So that's been a huge blessing. So we ended up, I think, part of me, you kind of like wonder, like, there was a lot of paths connected, and a lot of, it's interesting, the doctors that we've moved through, and just all the things, and you're like, everything was leading us to getting the help we needed. And I think, if we stayed in New York, I don't know, it would have been different. So we ended up, I think, in the perfect place, because everything we need for them is here.
Wow, that's insane. And then, so your oldest boy got it, or we've kind of started to figure out that something was going on around 8, didn't really get official word of what was going on until 10. What age did your youngest?
So he presented a little bit earlier. So Max was 10, and then he got trached at 10. Chance started showing signs around 6.
Okay.
But it was like a cautious, there's no siblings. So, we're going to be very careful before we diagnose again. And then he was 7 when the official diagnosis came. And it was pretty easy for us. It was watching the same thing, even for Chance. Like and I say this in an interview I did with CHOA, it's like you're sitting there and you're watching a train head for your family again. And he knew it was coming. He would ask me, do I have what Max has? And so I think once that second kid, it was awfully horrible when Max was diagnosed, but we, for so long, were searching for him. So actually the diagnosis, no matter how
I see what you're saying,
great it was,
like, as sucky as it is, it's like, okay,
we got an answer.
We know what it is now, rather than the first time around. It was almost 10 times worse than it actually was just for you and your husband, because you're trying to figure out what the hell's even happening in the first place.
100%.
And it seems like there's no answer. You're going to 50 billion doctors. None
Yeah.
of them know what's up. You finally find one dude and he's like, oh yeah, it's this. And then you're like, okay,
Yeah.
still sucks, but at least we have that relief of like, we actually know what's going on.
Yeah.
And then for your second kid, it was like, okay, like we don't have to go through that drama and stress again.
Yeah.
Still stinks what we're going to have to go through and what he's going to have to go through, but at least we know what's going on.
Way better prepared the second. I think it was harder for him because he was young, and to realize, you know, my brother now has this, I'm going to end up like the, you know, and so I think for him, it was really tough. He did beautifully with it, and my kids are really strong. But for us, it was, yeah, I mean, I can't act until I have an answer. So even if the answer is not what I wanted, at least it's something to go off of. And so we kind of knew what worked for Max. And so we did that earlier with Chance. We should just be more proactive than reactive. With Max, everything was reactive. And so things were a lot harder because of that, because when you're coming into the end of the ball game, it's harder to make up that time. So for Chance, we could be proactive, and that was really important.
And then is this condition something that they will have their whole lives?
Yeah, so it is.
It's not something that they can quote unquote get better from?
No, they won't. It'll be something they always have. It is, because it's so rare, there's not a ton of knowledge, but it is considered kind of a life limiting.
So will they have to live under your care?
Yeah. So we have nursing in the house. If the boys, they have to either be with myself or my husband, because we're trained. Children's healthcare, we had to go through a really, really long, I mean, we were in the hospital for months doing the training.
Wow.
They prepare you very well to take care of kids like this. And if it's not us, it has to be a nurse. So yeah.
So there's no babysitter in the mix.
No, we do bring them in to help entertain with the boys, because obviously the nursing is busy during nursing things. We're working and things like that. But no, if it's got to be us or a nurse, they can't be left alone otherwise.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did that, kids aside, how did that affect your marriage all through this? Like, was it, I mean,
Yeah.
forgive me for asking.
No,
but
that's a fantastic question. And I think that's one that's not really talked about. Just the neurodivergent piece alone, to raise kids, especially on the autism spectrum, the divorce rates are really high. I mean, it takes a toll on your marriage, that alone. And then to add in this medical complexity, I remember a physician telling me what our statistics kind of were. And I was like, okay, yeah, we know. I mean, we feel it for sure.
Wow.
I think it either brings people together or divides people. And certainly there's been division, of course, over time.
Of course.
But I think you learn how to become partners in a different way. Life changes pretty dramatically. And you either have to learn how to, do it together or do it apart. And for us, no matter how hard the days are, we have to be able to do it together.
I was just going to say, getting a divorce throughout something like that almost sounds like it's going to make things more difficult for the kids, just in terms of going back and forth between houses and taking, whatever equipment is needed with them. Like, that just sounds like a nightmare, and dealing with it under one roof is probably a nightmare in some days, but going through it, it sounds messy.
Yeah.
And miserable.
Yeah. I mean, there's not when you take that out of it, there's not the ability to go back and forth. So before the Max came home, we had to move. We can't have a house that has a lot of stairs. They do get around during the day, but they're in wheelchairs when they're out in public, outside of the house. So we had to find a house that could accommodate them. And then we have to get a generator. We have ventilator. I mean, their rooms are like little ICU rooms. So all the equipment, walk into, like, all the money you put into it, there's not the luxury of, we have one resident here, and they can go back and forth. That's just not possible. So our house, It is. Yeah.
I can't imagine, man. I mean, I'm thinking about your relationship with your husband now, and thinking like, there were some ups and some downs, and I'm sure they ebb and flow. I mean, there's phases, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Especially as they get older, it presents new challenges so do they, I mean, this is, again, dumb question. Do they go to school without you? Like, how or are they going to they're not going to live a regular childhood?
No.
Sorry, I hate to say regular,
okay.
but.
No, I mean, and that fits. And words like normal and typical fit too. I just feel weird when I say them, but
Yeah.
they do fit. And
I
so
just
they
don't want to hurt your feelings or
no,
anything.
no, they don't have a typical childhood. Now, I will say, so they can't go to school without a nurse. So we've chosen to homeschool, and that way, and I don't do it. We have a teacher come in, they teach them, and then the nurses are there. And that way they can be in their own environment. Having nursing going to schools is almost impossible to get anyway.
Yeah.
So, we do that. They don't have a typical childhood. I will say, and this is part of why, neurodivergence and then mental health in children is so important to me, because obviously to go from having a somewhat typical childhood, very typical childhood, running, playing, being able to do swimming, my kids can no longer swim. I mean, all these things that happen to them, their appearance looks different. They rely on machines. They can't go underwater. There's just so much that changed for them. Keeping them healthy mentally was really important, and they've done beautifully. Like, they both went through some depression. They both have some anxiety.
Sure.
I can't imagine.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. But they're happy. They are happy. They've found what works for them. They have found, same as we did. I think your perspective really changes when you are going to lose a child, and the children know. They know how sick and how bad it was. And they both asked me, am I going to die? And you have to answer those questions as honestly and gently as you can before you make these big decisions, because they were old enough to be involved in their medical care.
Sure.
So I can't just say we're going to do a tracheostomy tube on you, but not get your input at 10 years old. So
Right.
we had these hard conversations. So they faced everything really bravely and really kind of up in the beginning. Now, I don't think they think about it. It's just our life now. So.
Yeah. Well, I hate that, but it's really inspiring to hear about them going through that and, like you said, still being happy. Because being me in the absolute wonderful life that I have, I think that I would be woe is me every day. Like, why that, especially if it, for your youngest, he didn't really know life much before all of it kind of took place. But for your oldest, who, like you said, for the first, half of his life was typical.
Yeah.
And then to all of a sudden, you can't swim anymore. You can't go to a playground anymore. You can't do this anymore. You can't do that anymore. It's like, shit.
Yeah. Sucks.
And then, sorry, I want to go back to your marriage real quick,
Yeah.
because I'm just thinking about with like my whole babysitter comment. It's like, you and your husband you guys became parents, of course, but then you guys really became full-time caretakers as well. And so that, I'm sure, like you said, you can't really, I mean, you can bring them in public, but you're doing date nights is harder. Going to the movies is harder.
They
You
didn't
guys,
exist.
you guys don't,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe now that the boys are older and you,
Yeah.
again, you have the nurses at home and stuff, but I mean, that must have been really hard.
Yeah. I mean, there was a period, it's just recently now that we've gotten amazing nursing coverage. Nurses that care for our boys in the hospital are now working in our home. So we're really blessed with our nursing coverage. But I mean, I think it was like in the fall, maybe even January, where we were first able to go out. It was the first time we had been out in the dark alone together, like at nighttime, in 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
We had not, if we did do a date night, it had to be during the day. And even that, I would say we'd had 2 in the last 5 years.
Wow.
We were never alone together. Like, we never could leave the house alone together. So we went a really long time. We're starting to get back into going out and things like that. But we just kind of learned we had to take the kids with us. And we've kind of always had that mentality. What was the purpose of doing all these really drastic things to improve their quality of life if we don't live? So some of it we white knuckle through. Like, the boys want to go to Disney and Universal. They want to ride the rides. We go on the rides. I mean, we're ready to handle an emergency should it happen. But, we go to concerts. We go out all the time. They love going to movies. I get really nervous, especially with germs and winter. I get nervous about them getting hurt. But, my 13-year-old, for his birthday in February, he wanted to go to Main Event, to an arcade in the middle of virus season. And so I'm like, terrible idea. And he's like, Mom, I'm only going to turn 13 once. Please let me be a kid. And sometimes giving me that wisdom and perspective. So we had his birthday at Main Event and we did okay. And he was super happy. But it changes a lot of stuff. And so we've just learned up until now. Now we have a little bit more freedom to go out. We've gotten great coverage at home. We have an amazing village of therapists, nurses, and that, our life is kind of this Jenga village underneath us. Like, it's like we're on a tower, and if one block moves, we are very aware of how that will shift and change our world. But we are surrounded by wonderful people who care for our kids, and they're like family to us. So that has given my husband and I a chance to have a relationship again. But for a lot of years, we were in this very do this, you tackle this, you tackle this.
You were very operational.
Very much.
I mean,
so.
it was a partner, but you were very like, it was like a job.
Yeah.
I mean, being a caretaker is a job, whether, you know, one way you look at it one way or another, you're doing a job at taking care of somebody else. And yeah, they're still your kids. So it doesn't feel like you're caretaking because they're your kids, but you guys are a unit, but you're not really like together as a unit, because you're both you have two kids. It's like, oh, one per kid, or, you know, however
we
you
even
look
had to
at
sleep
it.
in their beds. Like, once they came,
say.
like we now have been able to go back to the same bed.
Mhm.
But for years since well, really, even because before they were trach, they were BiPAP. So we've kind of, as soon as they were diagnosed, they went on BiPAP, and then once they came home with their trachs, it took a year and a half solid for each kid to have their trach before we felt comfortable with them sleeping alone because we have monitors, and they're on monitors at night and things like that. But all of those things that just are so normal, we've gone a long time without.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for getting into all that. That's really cool of you to just, because I'm, you know, is this something, like you said, like your son asked you at one point, like, am I going to die from this? Is it something they can die from?
Yes. Yeah. So if they did not, so when we went in with our oldest, when he was 10, when we went in, had been at the beach, and he slept the entire time on his BiPAP machine, and we went in, and our pulmonologist was like, if you leave here, you know, most of these kids, the reason the numbers are so few is there's the belief that a lot of these kids have cardiac arrest in the night when they're sleeping, because part of this, really the hardest part of the disease, is this hypoventilation. And so what that is the brain. So the autonomic function of your body is all the things we don't think about: our heart rate, our body temperature, our breathing, our feelings of needing to be hungry, our using the restroom. They don't have signals for a lot of that. There's a dysfunction in all of that. So their brain at night and during the day tells them not to breathe. So that's where the concern comes in. So what happens is their respiratory rates get really low, and then their CO2 builds up really high. So a lot of kids don't have a chance to get diagnosed. And this syndrome is related to another syndrome that's called congenital hypoventilation syndrome. And it is what they believe is the leading risk factor in SIDS. And so what this is it just presents older. So like over the age of 4. And so it's like SUDS, but sudden death. So it just comes at night. It's very similar to SIDS. And so a lot of kiddos, you know, will just go to sleep. And so the tracheostomy is 100% necessary. They have to have something to give them breaths at night, because their body can't do that. And then, you know, they do other things. We get IV infusions every 2 weeks in the home of IVIG. We've kind of there's a lot of beliefs on how to manage the syndrome. We've just decided to go all in on all the things. And they seem to be responding really well to it. So, but yeah, it is a very dangerous disease. It is life limiting. We don't know much about it. So we don't know what to expect from it.
And this is your new normal.
It is. Yeah. It had to become that way. Yeah. It took a while for it to become. We lived in a state of fear for a really long time, but we've settled in. But I mean, you know, it would be hypocritical of me to be like, oh, we handled it perfectly. And we didn't.
Yeah.
We were terrified a lot of the time, but I think we've all kind of found new purpose through it. And so that's been healing for us.
Is there ever a part of you that, might sound like a weird question, but is there ever a piece of you that's grieving what their childhood could have been?
Yeah, I think all the time. I think, you know, it is our new normal, but I'm sad about it every day. When you fall asleep at night, you know, there's that, you can't send your beds. Like, I can't say go to bed, kids. I mean, they're 13 and 10. They should be able to go put themselves to bed. Like, all of those little things we can't do. And sometimes at night, you're laying in a house and you hear ventilators and you hear alarms, and it just feels surreal. It's like sleeping in a hospital all the time. I definitely think we grieve a lot. I think we go through periods where we don't, but I call them like paper cuts. And that's what makes it so hard, is you're just kind of going along and you're doing well and you're feeling good. And then you see something like when everybody went off to middle school and my son couldn't, that was a hard thing. Seeing people go to their first dances, just the idea of how different our future will look and how different their future could look. It's like paper cuts. I can just be washing dishes and all of a sudden it'll just pop up and it just stings, and it can very simple. Like the summertime is always hard. Max was on swim team, Chance loved to go to water parks. So summertime is hard because they think about that. I think that is honestly, and they crack me up. That's the thing they're most upset about is they just want to go underwater. And that's their biggest thing. They want to swim. So for them, it's pretty simple. And so that's where they think about it, but it is hard. Yeah. You grieve it. I think you sit in it for a little bit because you have to, but then you have to get back up and you have to keep kind of moving forward. And that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you for telling me all that. That's really cool to know. And I hate that you go through it. And I hate that they're going through it. We know what you and your husband are doing to help and the nurses and everything, but to be in their shoes, to be that kid that's like, my friends are all going to the pool and I can't go.
Yeah.
Or that, my friends are all going to see the new movie and I can't go with them.
Yeah.
It's gotta be horrible. I can't even imagine. But I bet they're the best boys ever. I bet that their personalities would not even lead you to believe that they had anything going on. Like they're probably just boys as boys are.
They are. Yeah. So they're not connected to anything during the day. They breathe through their mouth and nose during the day. Yeah. So then that's part of the treatment with the ventilation overnight is we like hyperventilate them. So we lower everything as much as we can so they can stay off the vent during the day, unless they're sick or tired. They're ridiculous. I'm yelling at them all the time. They are very much, my house is a wreck. They're running around screaming. I remember them telling us before my oldest was trached, you might want to record his voice. You may never hear it again. And so that was so hard for us. I swear to God, I think they put a microphone down in his trach. Yeah, he is so loud. And obviously we love it most of the time.
Sometimes you're just like, shut up.
Now that we've settled in and now that we know he's well, then it's like, okay, you need to be quiet a little bit now. But for our house is crazy. We have people in it all the time, in and out. The boys are up and down, running around, wrestling too much, just getting in trouble like typical 10 and 13-year-old boys.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah.
So all of this is happening. You're raising your boys, you're going through the things, you're learning news, you're adapting to your lot, everything's changing. At what point were you like, no more nursing therapy?
So I did their nursing for a long time when we got home from the hospital. So I kind of started with Max's when he was trached. We're in the pediatric ICU or the tach-dependent ICU a lot.
I'm sorry to cut you off. You keep using this term trached?
Trached. So it's like a breathing tube. It's the ones it's in the neck. Usually you just see it in older people. Some kids do have it. Some kids need it because
is it like the thing where
it's not the talk thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And that is a big thing. A lot of people confuse it with that. So it is essentially just a hole that goes into their neck, into their airway, like into their lungs. We change it every week. Max changes his own. Chance is getting there. But it's just like an artificial airway that they keep and then during the day when it's capped, it's not being used. And so that's what we do during the day. And then at night we use it to sleep.
Okay. And before we get back to you, I just want to point out that I bet like it just, as much as they hate their situation, I bet it's a pretty cool thing that they have each other through it. Like, it'd be different if because you can easily, it sounds like a TV show or a movie, like one brother's got this thing, the other brother is able to do all these things. Yeah. There's incredible jealousy and anger and resentment towards this other brother because why me?
Yeah.
But the fact that they have each other, if nothing else, is really cool.
Yeah.
Cool in the sense of their reality, but it's super cool that they as brothers have that together.
100%. It's so beautiful. And it's so funny when one of them is upset or one of them is sick. I swear they worry over each other almost more than we do at times. They're super protective of each other. If one of them needs calming down, they calm each other down better than we do. It's funny, they're 3 years apart, but it's almost like they have a twin relationship than a brother, with that big of an age difference because they're inseparable, which sometimes leads to the arguing and the wrestling and that kind of thing. Yeah. But we would rather them feel inseparable. They spend a lot of time together. And so it's really, I'm an only child. So I never experienced that. And I've always kind of at this age, especially wanted, I think as an only child, I liked being an only child, but as you get older, having a sibling, that I see other people with those relationships. And so I really am happy that the boys have it, but to see theirs is just something. I mean, they go to the ends to protect each other. We've had
That's awesome.
rude comments in stores, and Max will chase him down with a wheelchair. I'm like, buddy, you can't confront people. You got to come back. But they are fierce advocates for each other. And so I think it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool. But anyway, yeah, back to your career. So you do their care for a while. And then.
So I was doing their care for a while, and it kind of sparked when Max was in with the first admission with his trach. We had a couple very close calls where he had cardiac arrest, and I was obviously a wreck. Not to take the focus, obviously, he was fighting for his life, but I was a wreck. And so I literally couldn't sit still because not only it's my kid, but I'm a nurse and I'm in an ICU, which is what I did before. So I want to work. I want to be busy. So the palliative care social worker every day provided me with therapy, with guidance, with puzzles, with things to do to keep me busy, with coping strategies. And that she was able to help me be the mom that I needed to be for him at that time. So that had kind of sparked a little bit of it. And then really, we got home, I was doing their nursing. And when I was their nurse, I couldn't be their mom because it took up so much time. So, Mom, can you play with me? Mom, can you do this? And my answer rapidly became more and more no's instead of yeses. And my focus was on all things medical and doctors. And I kind of lost, I didn't lose sight in a bad way of being a mom. I lost sight in the way that was necessary because in those moments, it was Max was diagnosed, got to get him stable. Then Chance was diagnosed, got to work through that. But I wasn't able to be a mom anymore. And also I feel like after Chance got sick, we were stuck. I mean, that was pretty big hits for our family. And I think we just were idle. And I was really worried for them, but I was worried for myself that I was going to go under. And I knew that I needed to have a purpose. I needed to find something that gave me motivation to move forward. I felt like I was sinking. My mental health was not great. Obviously, our whole family's wasn't. And so I remember I'd been toying with the idea of I'd like to go back and help kids, wanted to help kids who had medical challenges with their mental health and just kids with mental health in general. And then the neurodivergent population. And I remember it was 2 days after Christmas and was sitting in the basement, with my husband, and I looked at him and I'm like, I got to go back to school. I was like, we're going to drown. We're not going to move forward. And I had a suspicion that this process would be healing for us, for me especially. And it definitely was. I mean, going back allowed me to kind of move forward and allowed us to keep us moving forward and have faith and have hope, all the things that we had kind of lost. So it was a couple days after Christmas and I was just like, this is something that has to happen. We had no idea how we were going to pull it off. I don't think we had nursing at the time. But it was something that needed to, yeah.
Okay. So you do that, you get your certifications, your degrees, your accomplishments, all that. And then first job out of that, is it where you're at now?
Yeah. So I ended up doing an internship there. Like I mentioned, I fell kind of ass backwards into that. I had replied to an ad that they had posted, and they were gracious at the time. I don't know that they fully knew, that I was an intern or whatever. And so once they realized that, being the incredible people they are, they still kept our meeting, even though they obviously weren't looking for an intern. And I went in and met with them and just hit it all. I mean, it was just
them being
Dr. Kimberly and Laurel. I remember just them keeping that meeting when they could have just been like, oh, this is not what we're looking for. So that right there was just a sign of how kind of loyal and just honest and transparent, just what good people they are. And so we went in and I kind of talked about my story and, the experience I did have working with kids. I mean, I've been doing therapy and just in a different capacity kind of for a while as a nurse, and took the risk on taking an intern. It was, I think, the first intern. And we just kind of jumped into it and they've been fantastic. And then so now obviously I just stayed on as, a therapist and have a caseload and love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you, okay. So you get on with them at East Cobb Counseling,
East Cobb.
and you specialize, and do you see only kids in this space, or do you speak to couples or solo, adults, or is it mostly just kids?
I do. I would say it's a lot of kids and teenagers. I see some individuals. I see a lot of families. So I do a lot of family work, parenting work, but I do see individuals as well. Variety to to all of it. But yeah, I would say what was great about it is that they let me make it what I wanted it to be. They gave me a place to have a home and to grow this vision of what I wanted, because just alone with the autism piece, I would try to get my boys into therapy, because when you have autism, it's highly likely, even neurodivergent adults, depression, anxiety, or comorbidities, they're going to likely experience that. So for my kids, long before they were ever sick, needed mental health therapy. Max had, suicidal thoughts at 4. Like, this mental health has been something our family's dealt with for a really long time with the kids from a young age. And I knew when I tried to take them to therapists, we don't see kids with autism, or we can't handle a behavior. And I can't take my kids in and promise you that they're not going to get dysregulated. That's part of our life, is sensory overload or whatever can send them into a state of dysregulation. I needed somebody to be able to handle my kids in those moments. And that was hard to find. And that space was hard to find. So that was really kind of one of my biggest things, is I wanted to be that for the community. I wanted to be a therapist, a provider that you could bring your kiddo in and you can go get your coffee and you don't have to worry. You can come in and your kid can be dysregulated, have a meltdown, or you can tell me something that happened to the week. There's no embarrassment. There's no shame. I've lived it. I live it. I understand it, and it's good. Like, I don't want for parents to ever come in and apologize for their kids, for their, behaviors or dysregulation. It's just part of the deal. And I love this population. I love these kids. They're amazing. Same with the, adolescents and adults. It's just really cool people. But you hear a lot of apologizing in the community. You hear a lot of, parents are ashamed or they're embarrassed, or, the kiddo can have a tantrum and they're trying to escape as fast as they can. And I get so many apologetic parents trying to pick up toys off the floor, apologize for, and it's just, I want a place that these families can come where there's just no judgment and somebody sees their kids and wants to help their kids. And I had a hard time finding out with the boys. So
yeah. I could definitely see the motivation behind, like, okay, when I was trying to walk through these parents' footsteps, I couldn't find it. So I am going to be that person.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. What you keep also using this term, is it dysregulation?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Does that mean, like, kind of like you said, like sensory overload, things are kind of spiking, behavior might become, I don't want to say erratic, but kind of all over the place? Is that kind of what that is? Like, kind of bubbling to the point of...
Yeah. So what you see a lot with these kids, and I can speak to and the kiddos I see, is they get so flooded from sensory, whether it's too much noise, too much input, too many words people are using. They have really big reactions and they don't know how to channel those big reactions. So often that looks like a meltdown or a tantrum at older ages than you would expect that. It can look like aggression. That's something that we've dealt with. It can look like self-harming behavior. It can look a variety of different ways. But I would think all of the ways make people feel uncomfortable, or make the parents feel uncomfortable to have other people see it. I know I certainly, would drag my boys off of, we tried to do soccer, we tried to do whatever, and it was too much and it didn't work. And I remember carrying them out to the car, kicking and screaming, just thinking I could never show my face in public again. And so, yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. It's very much some kids shut down. Some kids just drop to the floor, won't walk, won't talk, those kind of things. So it can present in a lot of different ways, but it's just their nervous system's not being able to deal with whatever is being, whether it's asking them to do a task they don't want to do, whether it's doing something that's hard for them, whether they've just had a bad day, hard day, other places, and they've had to hold it together at school, and then they can come home and be with people that are safe and love them and let it out. So it can present in a lot of ways.
Well, I think you're not alone in the thought process of, I can never show my face in public again. Because I mean, even as kids, when I was a kid, if me or my siblings acted like a crazy person in public, my mom was like, "Oh my God, we can never go back to this grocery store because everybody in the store saw me straighten you out,
Yeah.
but also you wailing uncontrollably or you acting the way you did. Like, there's a level of like, we can't ever go out again.
Yeah.
Because as a parent, like, you are embarrassed
Mhm.
because it's like this behavior shouldn't be, but there's no way to communicate that effectively to them in
Yeah.
that moment.
Yeah.
So it's like the only thing we could do is leave. That's the only solution here. So I don't think you're alone in that. I think most parents, whether their children have, you know, certain challenges or not, I think everyone identifies with that one.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, even if I'm with my friends and someone does something weird, I'm like, all right, we should leave.
Yeah.
Like, this is, I'm uncomfortable. We should get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
everyone feels that.
Yeah, and I think what's bad about it is that society just, and I think for anybody, whether it's neurotypical, all kids, all people in general, there's just these expectations of what we should do, what we should look like, how we should act, what behaviors are acceptable. And especially I think for, you know, our generation raising kids, our parents handled us a very specific way. That won't work with these kind of kids. They could care less. There's a lot of intrinsic motivation in these kiddos, which is really special because they do things because they want to do it. They're not motivated by external factors, which is a good quality, but can be hard to parent. But I think just in general, we attach a lot of judgment when we look at other people. We snap a picture. We have no idea what's going on in someone's life, parent or not parent, just anybody. And we paint a narrative about somebody we don't even know. And I think that that's a lot of the fear, is that we're being talked about, our parenting is being talked about, our kid is being talked about. And so being able to feel unfazed by that is really hard because we don't know how. We don't know how, kind of as a society, I feel like, not to care what other people think about us. It's hard to toughen that skin and to learn that, I feel.
Yeah. I mean, I struggle with that. I mean, but I care too much about what people think of me, to the level of like, this is the analogy I always use when I describe this, but like, if me and the boys are going out, you know, and it's a guy's night and we're all going to, you know, play pool and, you know, drink and have a good time or whatever. If it's in like that weird season of like spring, summer, or like summer, fall, and it's like, it's cold enough to wear pants, but it's also warm enough to wear shorts, I like will text them before we go out and like, are we doing shorts? Because if there's a picture taken, I don't want to be the one idiot in shorts. Why should I give that much of a shit about it? But do.
Yeah.
I just do.
You're making me laugh because we had family pictures taken not long ago and my husband was obsessing over, do I wear shorts or do I wear pants? And I'm like, dude, it's in the front yard. Like, wear shorts. He's like, well, I feel like it should be a pants. So it reminded me of that.
I do that all the time.
Yeah. And I think,
hey, we're going to a concert. What are you going to wear? I don't know. What should I wear? I don't know. Hat, no hat. Like, it's a struggle.
Yeah. I think
but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't. But I mean, I think it's human to do it. It is. And you want to, there is an element of fitting in and feeling included and feeling that is important for people. And we all do it. I mean, I do the same thing. If we're going somewhere, what are you wearing? What should I, that kind of thing. I think we all do it. And I think, definitely social media and everything we do being, where you can see everything and how somebody looks and what's happening, and have your risk of your video be taken anytime somebody getting a picture that's not flattering or a video of something. I think it's kind of this comparison world now that it's hard not to get into.
So hard.
We kind of live in it.
And it's extremely unhealthy, as you, I'm sure, see.
Yeah.
Is there a specific, I know a lot of the kids you see are, have been dealing with certain challenges or disabilities or whatnot throughout their life, but for the kids that don't face those, is there a common thread that you see that a lot of kids, or even adults too, are going through just today?
Yeah. So I definitely see, neurodivergent kids, but I see a ton of neurotypical kids and adolescents. And I would say I see a lot of school pressure and anxiety. There is a lot of kind of OCD perfectionism type stuff going on with schools, and it's starting really young. I see 7 and 8 year olds, being extremely stressed out about performing academically. And I think back to when I was 7 or 8. I mean, I couldn't tell you what I was learning. Like, it's just such a different environment. And then it bleeds into the middle school. I think middle school socially is incredibly hard for kids that transition. It does. It does. It's really hard to find somebody that's had a pretty positive
horrible
experience.
Transition between elementary and high school.
We're just going to throw you here and see how you do.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yes.
People are mean in middle school.
They are. And so I see a lot of the kids on the other side of that. I see a lot of kids who are being bullied or just struggling to find who they are, where they fit, where they feel comfortable. And then in high school, it's the same stuff. It's comparison, definitely, as you get older.
And there's a lot of overthinking into something that shouldn't be overthought. You're just going to school to learn.
Yeah.
But you're stressing about, oh, I passed a note to the wrong guy, or something stupid like people don't pass notes anymore.
It's okay. I use old throwbacks all the time. Sometimes the teenagers will be like,
which is funny though, because like I never passed a note because in my entire, I mean, ever since I was in middle school, eighth or ninth grade, I had a cell phone. I mean, it was a little clicky keyboard thing, but I mean, I've never passed a note, so I don't even know why I made that reference.
I'm guilty of the past. I'm from that time. I'm like, pass some notes in my.
Man, I mean, how anxiety inducing is passing a note? I mean, do you like me? Check yes or check no.
Oh yeah.
The anticipation of getting that back. Or if you're a girl, like I feel like for me, you would have just like read the note, crumbled it up and thrown it on the ground. That's worse. That's worse than checking no. That is like, I don't even want to answer this.
I'm not going to take time with it. It's the same thing now. It's the same exact thing. It's just done over phone. So they're not, I get teenagers, they can. Yes, or it'll be read and no response. So I get a lot of teenagers, especially adolescents, who are overanalyzing text and communication and Snapchats and like all this kind of stuff. And I've had to verse myself into kind of all of this so that I can kind of get the, understanding of, but it is this very anxiety producing thing. And so much of it is, I actually say to some of the adolescents I work with, do you guys ever speak in person? Do you ever call each other? I mean, it's very, everything is over text or a message on Snapchat. And it's a different way of communicating. And texts are hard. There's so much gray in there anyway. So it's interesting. It's the same stuff. It just looks different because of the age.
Yeah, I mean, maybe your kids can identify with this. I know some kids out there can. I know me and my siblings face this problem. Our dad is a big ... kind of guy. Oh, I told you about it yesterday. ... Those 3 dots lead me to believe that you think I'm a fucking idiot. And it's like all the time I'm like, Dad, stop with the ... And we have this executive at work that uses ... And it's like, he thinks I'm an idiot. But most people, I think, would say that the ... is just like a thought that hasn't been completed or something. But to anybody in their 20s or teens or anything in between would say that if someone hits you with a ... it's like, oh shit. These are fighting words. Like it's insane. But it's one of those things that we have to actually think about. Or you with children actually have to think about, okay, like if I send ... to my kid, is he going to think I feel some type of way?
They definitely read into everything.
Even my friends, like we're approaching 30, and even my friends, which I disagree with this take, but they say I'm the driest, most boring texter ever. They say I never use emojis. I don't use crazy punctuation, which isn't true. I use punctuation pretty regularly, but they say I'm like super dry and like cheer up, buddy. And I'm just like, I just say what I need to say. I don't insert emojis for every word.
Yeah. It's actually what you do now, from what I gather from working with my client, is what you do now is the way it is now. So I text like a 44-year-old. I try to put in the emojis. I put in the 12 exclamation points. I get very expressive. If I've had something to drink, I get a little bit more expressive. My texts get way more emotional and sappy. And
of course.
Yeah. All the things, all the feelings.
Everybody you love them.
Oh, everybody. I'm like, oh, we need to get together soon. 12 exclamation points.
We're just like, oh my God, I love you. I haven't talked to you in like 6 months, but you're my fucking guy.
We need to go on vacation. I haven't talked to you in forever, but let's totally do that.
Let's book a trip together.
Yeah. And so that is the way that I text. But now, like, I'll get a lot of like my clients that'll text me and from their phone, and it's like very all lowercase, not a lot of punctuation, definitely no emojis. So I'm like, I got to check myself. I'm like, I can't send my, 16-year-old client smiley face because that looks way uncool.
What is the
Because-
deal with the lowercase text?
There's
It bugs the shit out of me.
no grammar, there's no capitalization, there's no punctuation.
But like, I know this because my sister used to do this, and I think she might even still do it. You can go into your phone settings and program your phone that when you start a sentence, it doesn't capitalize the first letter.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You can do that, and people do
Wow.
that.
Why would you? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't.
It makes no sense to me, but I've also never asked, like, why do you have that lowercase?
So,
Like in my,
I have to ask that.
maybe it's not like that anymore, but when my sister was in high school or middle school, all of her phone contacts were lowercase.
No, it is. Well, like their names, like
Even like
in the
dad
phone.
or,
Oh,
Brandon. It's all lowercase.
that's really interesting. I
It's
do notice it in the text. I don't know about the contacts, but I do
It's
notice
so odd.
everything is lowercase that I get.
I don't get it.
Yeah, I didn't even know you could set your.
You can do that.
You fell to the
I
pressure.
did it, and then I was like, this feels. I think my first boss, like out of college, was just like, fix your phone, and I was like, you're right. I'm an adult now.
Then you weren't in grammar.
And yeah, and now I get pissed if someone uses the wrong version of their,
Mhm.
but kids don't care.
Oh no. I mean, I get initial, I've had to like, what does this mean? And even when they talk to you, they'll speak in the initials.
Like Riz, and
Yeah,
they use
like-
terms that are fun.
Yeah, or just like I'm trying to think of something like it. Like,
LMFAO.
yes, and like that
Or-
was said in a sentence
Yeah.
instead of the word.
I say it out loud ironically. Like if someone's just like says something that's not funny, I'll be like, LOL. Like you're like, this guy's an asshole. Like if I'm giving my friends a hard time, if they're not your real friends, you can't give them a hard
No,
time. Like you
That's
have
a
to be able to
sign
give
of
your
a good friend. Is you can,
Exactly.
yes. you gotta be able
If
to-
someone's just like, I'm like, LOL.
See, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's good. Like that's funny. Yeah.
But kids are doing like the Fortnite dances with the L on their thing, and like
Yeah.
being a kid today has to be so tough and odd.
I think so. I think that's why we see so much of what we see. It's really hard. School's so different. That's the biggest thing for me. It's like I hear about the pressures and the stuff in school at such a young age, and I'm just like, I don't remember what I was just just like fourth, fifth, even in middle school. I like even in high school, like
I'm going to play with my action figures.
it's very different. Like
My wife teaches second grade.
okay.
And so when we first started dating, her first year teaching was the year of COVID. So she was doing virtual learning for her first year.
That's really hard.
But now, as she's teaching these second graders, we are in the generation now of the COVID kids, and their tendencies are unlike, I can't wait to see in 50 years the statistics and like what the COVID generation like went through, but like they don't talk to each other, they don't interact with each other, they don't know how to share, they don't know how to cohabitate with each other.
Yeah.
Like it's really alarming.
It is.
And it's like, what's going to happen when these guys are all adults?
I don't know if because they're all adults, they'll all transition in the same way, but I will ask people, what do you do for fun? What do you do with you hang out with your friends? They're like, oh, we all read our phones together. So like all in the same space, but
We
all,
send each
like-
other TikToks. My dad sends me TikToks.
I mean, I can spam somebody with some Facebook memes or some or some reels. I'm not gonna like pretend that,
Oh no, for
but I do it like in the middle of the night. Like that's
Yeah.
my tactic is like I
Right.
secretly send them on
I
Messenger.
try to read first, and then I read like I saw this master class thing that was just like, you'll be better off if you read just 10 pages a day. And most days I try to get 10 pages in. I read my 10 pages, put it on the nightstand, and then I whip my phone out and
Check.
proceed to be on that for
Yeah.
4 hours.
Yeah.
But it's so easy.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess I'll read my freaking physical book, put that away. Now I can play on my digital
I'm
phone.
impressed you're doing your 10 pages. That's
And,
great.
yeah, if you're ever like, I wonder what Logan's doing at 8 p.m., it's probably getting my 10 pages in.
Just get those in as fast as I can
Yeah.
so I can
Oh, for sure. Maybe
Yeah.
sometimes I'll do 7 or 8 just to switch it up,
Ooh.
just to be a little scandalous.
That's what
But
happens.
yeah,
as you
dude,
get older.
if your algorithm is doing its thing,
Yeah.
I'm spamming people.
Oh yeah.
The other day, one of my friends, we have like this guy's Instagram group chat where all we do is just send either news or movie trailers or, anything, or memes mostly.
Yeah, that's fine.
One of them was just like, Logan, go to bed. Like, get off your phone.
Yeah. It's fun. I'm guilty. I have one friend in particular that We just have.
You just send it back and forth.
I would say I'm heavily the sender, probably. Like, yeah. And so I don't know, think things are funny. And so I'll send like 10 in a row and then I'll get a message back. I promise you I'm going to read these, or I'm reading these. I just don't have time to respond to everyone. So I'm guilty. I'm guilty of that too.
I've wanted to ask you this question kind of since we started talking, but you know, I don't know. I really don't know how to ask it, but you hear conversation a lot about how I don't want you to hit me.
I'm not going to hit you.
Okay. In my parents' generation,
Yeah.
the whole autistic, let's get them tested, let's go to therapy, all of those kinds of subjects. When my dad if my dad wanted therapy when he was in middle school, he was just called a pussy and told to grow up and get over it.
Yep.
Or mom and dad, I think I'm having trouble with school. Like, what's going on? Figure it out. You're not trying hard enough. Do you think that there's a lot of adults among us today that should have been, and even if they were never, it's, you know, they're not different people or worse or better, but do you think that had we taken these things as serious as we are starting to do now, back when my parents were going through school, or, you know, or your parents were going through school, do you think we'd be in a different place? Do you think we have a lot of undiagnosed neurodivergent people walking among us that just never got that talk? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for our parents, like that age, there was no such thing. Like, it's just, you have a problem. Like, there's no mental health. It's just just deal with it. I think even for us, probably a few times when I was in high school, mom probably should have sent me to see somebody, you know, like,
Sure.
I could have worked some crap, you know, like, definitely. I think I actually see a lot of, you know, adults come in that have just recently been diagnosed, whether it's from peer reviews at work, whether it's relationships, and people are like, I think you might need to. And so there's a lot of people right now, adolescents and adults alike, that are diagnosing themselves and testing themselves on the internet because they've recognized that something. Now, not saying that's the right way to get a diagnosis, but I think there's a lot of people that feel and identify with that. You know, I'm an autistic adult. I feel like I'm neurodivergent. I feel different. So they are now seeking help older. And I think there's a lot of them that have trauma from really struggling socially and academically, and just being labeled as lazy or different or weird or whatever these things that other kids can say to kids, or even parents have said to their children, you're fine, you just need to get over it. And they're coming in now really traumatized because they realize that things are different and their life's been impacted by that. And so I think now we're doing a much better job of recognizing it. I think now maybe everybody worries a little bit too much that, you know, anytime we see any, you know, different, like, you can be different. That's okay. And it doesn't necessarily mean there's a diagnosis there. But I think there's a lot of adults who are walking around maybe undiagnosed. But I think what I'm seeing is people are kind of realizing, now that there's all this attention being brought to it, I can really identify with a lot of what I'm seeing there. And I never really understood how that applied to me.
Yeah.
Now I do. So I'm going to go on Google and I'm going to find a test and see if it tells me I'm neurodivergent.
Yeah. Like, even when I told because I love, me and my wife both stand by therapy. We both go individually, and every once in a while we go together, like once a quarter or something. Yeah. And it's lovely. I'm a huge advocate now. Yeah. As I think I stated on the episode with Dr. Kimberly, a huge advocate for it now. When I told my parents initially the first time, that I'm like, hey, I'm going to therapy, and they're like, really? What's wrong with you? And I'm like, they didn't say that. But it's that vibe of like, if my dad had told his dad he wanted to go to therapy, he would have been like, you bitch.
Yeah.
Like, shut up.
I can maybe spank that out. You know, there's that mentality.
I'll
really?
That out of you.
Yeah.
It was just such a different mindset. Do you think, like, obviously, if we had taken this stuff seriously back then, we would be in a place where now, I mean, it's just everyday life. Mm-hmm. It's common knowledge. Everybody can, goes through these ebbs and flows of things. But since we didn't, we're just now getting to a point where it's like COVID hit and all of a sudden the United States cared about mental health.
Yeah.
Or maybe even the whole world. I don't know. I can only speak for us.
Yeah.
But
That's
all
a
of a
great
sudden
point, though.
the US was like, oh, we give a shit all of a sudden about how people feel.
Yeah.
And that seems weird. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but sometimes I have questions.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, why didn't we take this stuff seriously 20 years ago?
Yeah.
But I guess better late than never. Kinda, not really.
I mean, I think we're seeing a lot of the effects on it being missed and people not caring or drawing attention to struggling, or people feeling like they can't say it. I think there's a lot of people that are afraid to tell their parents, you know, I'm going to therapy, or I think I need therapy, or I have these sort of feelings. I think there's the thing that I worry about, and I do see this in the population I work with. There's some glamorizing of mental illness now. There's some, it's cool to have some mental health issues. It's cool to kind of have some of these behaviors. And I find this, especially like in middle school, it becomes this cool, illustrious thing to say I'm neurodivergent, or I have depression, anxiety, which not validate, so many people do. But I see a lot of kids who get mixed up with these groups of people who are self-harming, and it's a cool thing to do. It's trendy. It's these buzzwords of I'm neurodivergent, or I'm depressed, or I have anxiety or OCD, and these kids are diagnosing themselves, labeling themselves without anybody taking them to see a doctor. They're putting these attachments onto them and then making it cool. And so all these kids are kind of fitting in together with this identity of I have these challenges. And what happens is the kids that really struggle from it end up doing very poorly. They get suicidal. They get very lost. They lose their identity. And so that's a lot of what I see now is people that just bottomed out from being in this environment of it's cool to be mentally, you know, to have a mental health challenge, to be mentally ill, however you want to label it, it became really cool. So a lot of kids who got into that self-harm and cutting and all of that, they're just, you know, coming out of it really traumatized. And it made whatever real things they were struggling with and facing at that time much worse, because they were surrounded by people that almost encouraged that behavior. Like, keep doing this, don't get help, you know, and it's a lot of this peer influence that you see. And so I think that's what I worry about too. I think there should be massive awareness, right? Obviously, that's crucially important. But I think having that understanding of what's real and that it is hard, and it's not something to hide. It's something to, you know, we have to be accepting. We have to be aware. We have to educate. We have to talk about it, but we don't have to idealize it, because when we do that, we give the wrong message of invalidating those people who are really hitting rock bottom and who are really, really struggling and don't feel like they can ask out for help, because it's in this group of people they're with a cool thing to do, and they're encouraged not to reach out for help. So I think it's a real careful balance, at least I see with a lot of the adolescents that I work with, of, you know, it's become a social thing, which is weird. It's strange.
Yeah, it's definitely weird. But hey, that's where we're at, and we're just doing the best we can.
Yeah.
So there is a point. Hey guys, I want to talk to you a little bit about the company that makes your morning drive happen every week. Are you looking to elevate your business and your brand? Hammerhead Creations is here to help. They offer top-tier marketing services, including social media management, website design, and Google page optimization, ensuring your business reaches the right audience. Whether it's a side hustle or your full-time grind, their expert team, me, is ready to help you grow. Plus, if you're into podcasting like me, Hammerhead Creations offers full support for both in-house shows and external podcast creation. From concept to production, we will help you bring your ideas to life. Visit www.hammerheadcreations.com and discover how we can take your business or your podcast or both to the next level. Hammerhead Creations, swim with the big sharks. In every conversation I have with my guests, that I ask them a collection of questions. You know people that were on this podcast, so you probably know some of them. Some of them might have changed since then. I change them out here and there, but I want to talk to you about these questions that kind of get to know you as a person. We talked about your kids, we talked about your career, we talked about your husband, but I want to know who you are on a regular, everyday basis.
Okay.
What is your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Probably To Serve with Love. I'm a classic movie girl. Sidney Poitier. Yeah. So that's
Rest in peace.
Yeah. Yeah. I would have to say that's probably my go-to if I just need something. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
What was your first job ever where you received a paycheck?
I was a cake decorator and manager at Baskin Robbins for my first job.
Ooh, Baskin Robbins.
I have a hard time being there now
Do
after
you?
all. Yeah, because I mean,
Are you like, this place isn't even good anymore?
no, I ate so much that I
good.
wasn't. I would open the store on the weekends and like I'd have to be there like at 9 and I'd be decorating like ice cream cakes and I would
How
just be
could you
eating
not?
ice cream. Yeah, yeah. So Baskin Robbins, I can still smell it. Like I can just, it'll
Wow.
stick with me forever. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds good though.
It was, yeah, I'll give a plug out to Baskin Robbins. It was a good place to be employed.
Nice. Nice. Very cool. If you found out tomorrow was your last day on Earth, tonight, what would you cap off your life and eat? What would your last meal be?
Oh, for sure. A steak.
Yeah.
Huge steak. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Big steak, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be on a statin at some point, probably really soon. I'm just waiting for those numbers to come back. But yeah, I'm a big red meat eater. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Good deal. I like that answer. You get to organize a music festival. You get to pick your 3 headliners there. We are putting on this music festival for you. Nobody else has to be in the audience, but you are picking your 3 headliners. They could be alive or dead. Who are they?
I'm going to show my age with some of these.
Row.
So I'm a major 80s fan. And 70s, definitely Queen.
Oh, for sure.
For sure. This is hard because I love music. I'm going to go Queen. I'm going to go early Madonna, like
Okay.
80s Madonna. And then Post Malone.
That's a great lineup.
Yeah, it'd be
Did
cool,
you go to
right?
Post Malone the other day?
I was devastated.
Oh.
No, I've been living vicariously on social media for all my friends who went.
Let me tell you something.
Did you go?
No, I had every opportunity to though. And here's what happened. So I saw Post Malone last summer when he came to Lakewood or wherever he went for his country tour. And I am on the team of Country Posty is fucking awesome.
Okay.
I love Country Posty. So on this new tour with Jelly Roll now.
Oh my gosh.
So
Yeah, I should have put him in the lineup.
yeah.
I'm assuming they're
he's
together.
incredible too. I mean, to be able to his story. I mean,
Beautiful. I mean, just, yeah.
if I could get him in here, I'd be done. Talk about full-time job.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be over.
Anyway, yeah, he's got an amazing story.
Yeah, he's incredible.
Yeah.
And funny enough, small world, my wife grew up right outside of Nashville, in the same town that Jelly Roll was raised in, and her older sister and Jelly Roll were friends in high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man.
I want to use that
I
connection
would
so bad.
I'm like, you haven't yet?
Get in touch with him, though, man. I don't know how. My wife's sister is passed, so I can't. It's okay. It's she. So I can't like, hey, do you remember this girl from Tennessee? And probably not, because you've been through life since high school. You've been to prison. You were
such
a rapper.
Doesn't he strike you though as somebody like, I don't know if you've watched like his like as would remember anybody.
Oh, for
like,
sure.
He
just genuine.
Everybody touches him, I think, in some way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he's doing great with the weight too.
Mhm.
I mean, he's looking good.
He looks good.
He's
looks
dropped
good.
100 pounds. He's on his way.
Yeah.
I'm happy for him.
I'm sure
But
him all the way. Yeah.
So my dad works in short, my dad works for the company that built the Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Okay.
So his company has a box in the stadium. And like 9 months ago, when Post Malone and Jelly Roll announced this tour, I was like, Dad, put your name in. He was like, I don't know, dude. Post Malone's like on top of the world right now. It's going to be really tough to get this. And I was like, I don't care. Put it in. Even if you get 2 tickets, me and you will go.
Yeah.
You and Mom can go, whatever.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, not going to happen with Post Malone. And so the day before Mother's Day, he calls me and he's like, hey, I got tickets to Post Malone in the box. And I was like, you son of a bitch, how many? And he was like, just 2. And it's Mother's Day, so I'm going to take Mom. And I was like, okay. So we go to a cookout on Friday night. So this is Thursday that he calls me.
Okay.
This previous Friday night, we go to a cookout with some family and friends and such for my cousin's birthday. Shout out Tanner. And my mom is like, I don't really know Post Malone. Do you want to go? And I was like, Mom, I would love to go, but you need to go. You need to have fun. It's Mother's Day. You need to go with Dad. And I had to like argue with her to convince her because my mom is
Good son.
I know. I felt very proud of
You
myself.
should. As a mom, I'm like loving this
I
right now.
called her the next day and was like, how was it? And she was like, oh, dude, I'm so glad you pushed
Yeah.
me.
It's like going to church, man.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, Mom, tell me all about it. How was it? And she was like, oh my God, he was singing and he had a cigarette in one hand and a beer in the other.
He's
and I
just
was like,
life goals right there.
for real,
Yeah.
for real, dude.
Nothing
To
to-
smoke a cig with Post. I'm not a cigarette smoker, but
But I
dude,
would.
if Post Malone's like, you want to smoke? I'm like, anything you give me, brother.
He is. Yeah. He's just the whole thing.
Oh, so I love Post Malone.
Me too.
I'm all in on Post.
Yeah. Me too.
And
I think he's supposed to be like the nicest guy too, which makes it.
I know.
Like-
Him and Jelly Roll.
Can you imagine just
Together?
hanging out with them? Yeah, that would be a good time.
Jelly Roll, if you're seeing this or Post, doubt you are, but if you see it, come on through. I'll get another chair in here. We'll.
He's got a special co-host that day.
I'll come to, yeah, for real, for real. I've got my my intern doing the video production,
Yep.
so she's gonna have a front row seat. She'll just sit on that stool back there and hang out, or you be the co-host. Screw it.
Oh,
Put a
listen.
chair right here.
I'll be the garbage emptier. I'll be whatever I need to be in this room just to be in
I'll
that
be the
presence.
valet gal. Yeah.
Oh wow,
Oh.
definitely valet.
Nah, they're getting dropped off.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
it'll be
true.
tough.
I'll be
It'll
whatever I need to be.
Yeah,
Just
for
to be
real.
involved in that. Yeah.
I like it.
You can use me however you need me.
Sounds good. On a day that, and I'm sure this day comes very few and far between, but on a day that you have to you, how do you take care of yourself? How do you recharge? What do you do? What do you drink? That's the vibe I'm getting from the giggle. You're like, well, a bottle of wine. How do you recharge?
I sleep. I'm a big sleeper. I don't think I've ever grown out of that teenage phase. I could sleep until 11 o'clock noon every day if that was possible.
Really?
Yes, I love to sleep. I
Oh.
think there's a lot of great things about napping and sleeping that we miss out on as adults. Yeah.
Team nap.
Yeah, team nap all the way. And then probably nap and then have somebody else prepare dinner for me, steak on the grill preferably, and then a nice drink. Yeah. I mean, it ranges. I can be a Diet Coke and Malibu kind of girl.
Okay.
Yeah. Or I can be wine. I can be whatever.
Yeah.
Just depends on the mood. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm pretty simple. I find pleasure in small things. Like a good nap, a good movie, a good dinner. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Very simple, but very, very intentional as well. What is the best piece of advice you have been given and by who?
One.
It's the first time I've asked that one. You're the first on that one.
All right. Let me think. Best advice. I think best advice probably that I was given was I remember struggling very early on in my 20s, not knowing what I wanted to do. No idea what I wanted to do. And I remember a professor just really encouraging me to stay curious always and never close anything off, never let anything be a barrier, whether that's a situation, age, something feels too hard, just to always be very curious and very intentional. And so, because I went to school to be a teacher and then I became a nurse and now I'm a therapist. Obviously, I float around, and
But
so
a common theme, helping people.
Yes, it is, very much always in that service kind of helping profession. But I think just allowing myself to stay curious has helped me and stay curious and stay intentional in all situations. I think that was the best advice I'd given.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
Great answer. It's crazy how a good professor can just change your entire mindset on everything.
Yeah.
And I love that they told you that stay curious, stay, open-minded, because we talked about that earlier about like, well, why would I just think about this one thing when I could think about this? Like, I want to at least try it. And if I fail, I fail.
Yeah.
But at least I tried. I like that.
Curiosity is a great characteristic to have. I think it's a really important one for people to have.
I almost named this podcast I'm Just Curious, because I found that, and a lot of the times when I'm talking to people and I'm asking them, I'm just curious about this.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
almost called it that,
No,
but your
it's
morning
okay.
drive is what
Yeah.
we're rolling with. What is your biggest fear?
Biggest fear. Regrets, I think.
Regret.
Regret. Having regrets. I don't I don't know if it's regrets or yeah, I think life is really unpredictable as we know and very short. And I think my biggest fear is not feeling like I did everything I wanted to do or that I wasted time not kind of yeah. So yeah, I mean I don't like bugs if you want an answer. Like, I hate bugs. I like
Who does?
get them out. Get them out. So that would be one. But if we're going for like a really deep kind of thing,
Yeah.
I would say regrets. Like
Okay.
I don't want to be saddled with a lot of those when I'm laying there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And then lastly, success. What does it mean to you? Or what does it mean for you?
Success means for me just making sure that anybody I can come into contact with, whether it's my kids, loved ones, families, strangers, I think that people walk away feeling like we've gotten something from each other. Interactions have been meaningful. Makes somebody happy, makes somebody smile. I think just to be thought of as it was really good interacting with that person. It was really good talking with that person or communicating. I think just making sure that I've been intentional with the way that I am with people and they can feel that. And we both, enjoyed our time together. I think that's what I look for with clients and families. That's what I look for success within my own family. When I'm with my kids, was it meaningful? Did it mean something? That's success to me, I think.
Yeah. That's a really good answer. Is there a particular resource or any kind of advice you would leave people with, that have neurodivergent children who might think they're neurodivergent themselves, people who are, fighting every day to help save their, kids' lives, whether it's one condition or another, just any kind of advice to leave people with?
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest thing that through all of it, I think when you receive a diagnosis of autism or any kind of neurodivergence or learning disability, you feel like you're thrown into the deep end of the pool and you are not given any kind of life raft. I would tell parents or people in general, keep looking for answers. I think oftentimes we're told by medical professionals or people in our family that we're done. We don't need to keep looking, but something feels off. I think listening to your gut, if I had quit looking for answers for Max, he wouldn't be here. No way. If I had quit looking for resources for them with their autism, we wouldn't have found a village of people to appreciate and care for them and see them. If I had stopped, when people are like, you don't need to go back to school, like you're what do you need to go back to school for? I think listening to yourself and not letting other people stop you and continuing to fight and get whatever inside of you that needs an answer, just keep doing that. Just don't give up on your kids. Don't give up on yourself. If something feels like it needs an answer, it probably does. And just try to find that. Don't quit. I think quitting is the worst thing that you can do.
I'm with that. And now, my friend, I want you to plug yourself. Tell people how to find you if they're interested in what we talked about and they want to maybe sit down with you or, pick your brain about this or that or get you booked for a session, maybe get their kid with you. How do people find you? Where do they go? How do they get to you?
Okay. You can find me on the East Cobb Counseling website. I do work with kids. Obviously, I do parenting sessions on the weekends where we talk about parenting kiddos with challenges. eastcobbcounseling.com. It's under groups. It's under individuals. Meet the team. We have an amazing team. I'll plug the whole thing because everybody's amazing there. And yeah, that's how you find me. And I help with anything. I just want families in this community to feel loved and included and have the resources and tools that they need to grow thriving kids and thrive themselves and find quality and meaning. And so that's what I'm here for.
Love that. Mandie, thank you so much for doing this with me. It was absolutely, the hype was real. I
don't know
can
about that.
definitely say that I had a ton of fun and I learned a lot. I mean, thank you for being so open and transparent and just candid about the struggles, because not everyone talks about the struggles. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do, is rather than get you in here for 30 minutes and we just cover the surface of it all,
Yeah.
I really want to have these meaningful conversations so that someone listening can take a piece of it and go somewhere with it. And just to be open and honest about it, I pushed myself a little more this time to push kind of a little bit and ask some of those tougher questions that before I would just kind of leave off the table. So thank you for being open to answer them and
Thanks for
to
asking.
tell me everything and anything about your family. I feel like I know them now.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
thank you so much. You're inspiring. You're incredible. You're hardworking. You and your husband both going through the things that you have gone through. It's just super inspiring. And I hope other people see that as well.
Thank you. Well, thanks for letting me share my story. It's important to everybody feels like they can be open and talk, and we all have stuff. Everybody's got stuff. Everybody's heart is hard, and that's important to acknowledge for sure.
Yeah,
So thank you for
absolutely.
giving people the chance to do that.
Of course. Guys, like I said throughout all of the episodes, all of everything, if you want more information, if you want to follow along, if you want to stay in touch, if you want everything in between, clips, announcements, just follow on social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, all of those pages. You can follow me personally on there as well. Reach out to me. Let me know if you need anything. But other than that, we will see you guys next time. Take care.